the story, we're looking at new emergency shelters that have just opened in Portland, all part of the new mayor's plan to meet the needs on the streets. A Salvation Army employee who just left her job is speaking out to KGW, saying the city is moving too fast and putting too much pressure on those working inside the shelters.
It's really hard to watch things be put together in a way that is not quite effective for serving people.
We reached out to the mayor's office and the Salvation Army, both on a fast track to open more beds. It's our big story tonight. As winter pierces through the streets of downtown Portland,
it's getting pretty cold.
Women like Gina,
please help us if you can, thank you,
look for a safe, warm place to go.
One day at a time.
Immediately.
At the direction of Portland's new mayor, Keith Wilson, and in financial partnership with Multnomah County, temporary emergency shelters are popping up, like this one for women off Southwest 2nd Avenue and Burnside Street. It's run by the Salvation Army. We went inside the day before it opened early January.
Mayor Wilson certainly reached out to us and asked if we might have capacity and ability to do that, and we responded to that.
It was almost as if it was like overnight.
That's Jacqueline Detmer. Until recently, she worked at the Salvation Army as an outreach worker and then mobile outreach lead. She watched as Mayor Wilson and his team tapped the Salvation Army to quickly stand up 200 temporary shelter beds in 2 locations, with what she said was not enough time or resources, specifically those needed to train new temporary staff to handle the level of crisis homeless people are experiencing.
The rapid rollout and seeing different ways that that's approached, whether it's hiring temporary workers who are not skilled or equipped or even warned at some of the challenges that they may face.
This ultimately led her to quit her job early this month.
The lack of teamwork and the lack of collaboration between different organizations and the pressure put on top of everyone regarding the speedy timeline, I think it doesn't really cultivate a healthy environment for anyone involved.
Major Jonathan Harvey with the Salvation Army Cascade Division sent KGW the following statement, saying in part, quote, "The Salvation Army has a long history of responding rapidly in times of crisis. We want to emphasize that we have met the 1-to-20 staff-to-guest ratio every night since the shelter expansion began. Training is an ongoing priority for us, and we are committed to maintaining a safe and healthy environment for both our guests and staff." The urgency to open these beds is driven by Mayor Wilson's agenda to end unsheltered homelessness, a lofty $28 million goal he presented to City Council last week.
We make sure every bed, every night is being used for life-saving care.
Mayor Wilson set a deadline of December 1st to open 1,500 more beds citywide, including turning churches into congregate shelters, a model many on the streets purposely avoid.
There's just a lot of people that steal. Good boy. And you've got people, the minute you turn your back or go to the restroom, even out here sometimes, you know, everything you've got's gone.
While we might have buildings, we might have community members, are we doing it in a trauma-informed lens, in a holistic development aspect? Are we trying to put a Band-Aid on something where it actually needs a full-on surgery?
I'd like to see more people out on the street, you know, talking to people and finding out, and, you know, one-on-one, like figuring out what we need, because you're not going to find out by just putting up a sign and saying, hey, we have a shelter over here.
Now, I also reached out to the mayor's office for his take on all of this. His spokesperson tells me they appreciate the Salvation Army's willingness to expand quickly and provide shelter for people suffering on the streets. I'm told Mayor Wilson met with Portland service providers to hear any of their concerns around expanding shelters. And the city's shelter services team is soon opening an application so organizations can apply for money to open and run more shelters, all to fulfill the mayor's plan. Now, speaking of emergency overnight shelters, I wanted to see how the Multnomah County Health Department has been responding to those on the streets as the temperatures drop. Multnomah County only opens severe weather shelters once certain thresholds are met. According to the county website, take a look, that's when one of the following are forecasted to last for 4 hours or more between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. if forecasted temps are 25 or below, shelters open. They can also open if there is an inch of snow or more, or if temperatures are just below freezing when there's driving rain of an inch or more. So very specific, even though today, when I was talking with people on the streets, it was clear people were suffering from the cold. A county health department spokesperson tells me since January 10th, the county has been enhancing outreach, which happens when conditions approach but don't meet those thresholds that we just showed you. I'm told enhanced outreach is when nonprofit and county outreach workers try to find vulnerable people living outside to offer them shelter and cold weather gear. And now during that time, so since January 10th, the medical examiner's office has not investigated any suspected hypothermia deaths. However, those results are preliminary and final results won't be known for several months. I'm also told emergency room visits and 911 calls for cold-related illnesses have remained at normal levels during the past 2 weeks of cold weather. All right, now to an update on a KGW investigation into retailers carding people regardless of their age. A pair of lawsuits challenged the practice, claiming universal ID checks were against the law and an invasion of privacy. Now, the Oregon legislature is weighing in. A House bill in Salem would allow retailers selling alcohol or tobacco to legally swipe your driver's license, even if you are 70, 80, or 90 years old. Kyla Boshi has more.
If you've gone to buy beer or wine recently, you may have encountered a clerk asking to scan your driver's license. A growing number of retailers have implemented universal ID checks for alcohol or tobacco products.
And so no one has to do math, and so you just scan it. It's 100% accurate.
Jonathan Polonsky, CEO of Plaid Pantry, says the policy of carding everyone eliminates any guesswork and keeps the company in compliance with state and local requirements.
All we're trying to do is do the right thing and make sure that kids don't get tobacco or alcohol.
But as we reported in September, not everyone agrees with the policy.
I understand their reasoning because they're trying to protect themselves from selling to underage, and I get that and I understand that. And sure, it's a lot easier just to say scan everybody, but you can't do that when there's privacy laws in place to keep you from having to scan.
Specifically, Scott Dale was referring to the Oregon law which prohibits the swiping of a driver's license except under certain circumstances, including the sale of age-restricted products if there's any reasonable doubt that the person is 21. And that, Dale and his attorney argue, makes this policy of scanning everyone's ID unlawful.
The law does not allow a business to swipe every driver's license on every transaction.
Plaid Pantry and WSCO Petroleum, which owns Astro gas stations, are both being sued over their universal card swiping policies, which prompted House Bill 2055. Its sponsor, Representative Emily McIntyre of Klamath Falls, explained this bill addresses the recent concerns raised by class action lawsuits. It would change the law, allowing retailers to swipe a driver's license to verify a person's age, regardless of how old the person looks.
Let's bring in Kyla Boshi now. Kyle, I feel like many of us have experienced this, getting carded. Is it really that big of a deal?
You'd be surprised. I get a lot of phone calls and emails about this, especially older folks saying, why in the world are they carding me? I'm 80 years old. This doesn't make any sense. And as the law is written right now, they probably shouldn't have their driver's license swiped or scanned because as it's written, there has to be reasonable doubt that you're 21. And obviously if you're 70 or 80, you're not 21. So as it's written now, no, they shouldn't be having their driver's license scanned.
Okay, so if this law is adopted, what happens to the lawsuits?
The lawsuits will still continue. It doesn't settle them, and it is not retroactive in any way, so those still live on. It has been introduced in the House, and now it goes on to committee for debate.
All right, Kyla Boshi, thanks so much. Well, turning now to a debate happening in cities across the country, including 3 cities in Southwest Washington, and that's fluoride in drinking water. This is a live look at a meeting happening right now in Longview. The goal is to give people there information about fluoride in water that will eventually lead to a public hearing next month. City Council invited a panel of experts, both for and against putting fluoride in water. Each side will present their arguments, with time for rebuttal and questions from the council. Now, before we get into the weeds of this story, let's take a look at the facts, like what is fluoride? And why is it in drinking water? CDC data shows about 2/3 of Americans are drinking water with fluoride. Fluoride was first recommended by federal health officials back in the 50s as a way to prevent tooth decay. The CDC says it replaces minerals lost in your teeth caused by normal wear and tear, which keeps them strong and reduces cavities. Health officials continued to endorse it even after fluoride toothpaste hit the market. But in the last 20 years, other studies have suggested a link between fluoride and brain development in very young children. It led to a lawsuit filed in 2017 by the group Food and Water Watch. The ruling came down late last year. A U.S. district judge determined that the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, needs to take steps to further regulate how much of the chemical is allowed in drinking water. While the EPA is appealing that ruling, some local governments in Washington have started discussions. Not just Longview, but also Battleground and Camas. Earlier this month, the Battleground City Council held a study session going into detail of the city's history with fluoridation, how it even works, and state laws that regulate the process. The mayor wanted to make it clear this will not be a debate over whether fluoridation actually works.
Some of the emails we've gotten that as soon as they say that in their email, I'm done. I mean, if you actually don't think the reaction is a double substitution reaction and rebuilds enamel and takes care of cavities, then I got some organic chemistry books. You're welcome. We can come dust them off and take a look.
Now, expert critics of fluoridation, which there is one at the Longview discussion tonight, argue that current federal guidelines aren't clear enough, and there should be more focus on the risk of exposure to high levels of fluoride, especially among young children. Earlier this afternoon, we talked to a Longview council member, Eric Halverson. He's the one who called for today's workshop and invited the expert who's opposed to fluoridation. His concerns lay with the evolving science around the health effects of fluoride, but also with the city's budget.
The city wanted to spend $200,000 to build a new chlorine tank at our water treatment plant, and through my research and working with the Public Works Department, I realized we can convert the fluoride tank that's currently holding the fluoride and turn that into an additional chlorine tank to save the city about $200,000. So cost is a big factor in this as the city, like cities all over the Northwest, are dealing with budget constraints, and this was just another way we could stretch our dollar.
Now, we also talked to a council member on the other side of the argument, Ruth Kendall. She is firm in the belief that the pros of fluoridation far outweigh the cons, and that some of the recent developments around the topic aren't all based in fact.
And I think that there is a lot of misinformation available out on the internet and so forth, and there's a lot of studies that have been done at different levels of fluoride concentrations than much higher concentrations of fluoride than what what's the recommended level is, and what the city has in the water supply here, which have shown some negative, maybe possibly negative outcomes. But at the levels that where we fluoridate the water to, it's been shown to be very safe.
All right, so what's next for these three towns? As far as Longview, today is just an educational workshop. City Council will hold a public hearing on February 27th. Camas has its public hearing on March 17th. And in Battleground, the process is underway, but little detail as far as next steps. But state law requires public water systems to give 90 days notice before a vote or decision on the matter. Something to note, the city of Portland does not have fluoride in its water. In fact, it's the largest city in the U.S. that doesn't. According to the Oregonian, Portland voters have rejected every proposal to add fluoride since 1962. All right, so what do you think? Should cities get rid of having fluoride in their water? We know this can be a controversial topic. Let us know your thoughts. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. All right, coming up next, an end to this dry start of the year. Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino joins us with an upcoming weather system, what you can expect, and how it will impact you. All right, take a look. This is video of last year's ice storm that hit Portland. A winter weather emergency was declared across the city. Public transit was suspended in some areas. Thousands were without power. Homes and schools were damaged, and recovery efforts lasted for months. Now, so far this year, that hasn't happened. In fact, it's been a pretty mild January. But let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, we are expecting some snow.
Yeah.
But I want to know, could it be as bad as last year?
No, and that was my reaction. Is like, nobody wants to relive
I
that.
saw you like waving your hands. I'm like, what's happening?
No. And this event that's developing as early as tomorrow with the rain will not be that. We're not going to see freezing rain. Last year, that was an east wind that just put all of Portland into the deep freeze. We had lows in the teens and highs in the 20s. This will not be that. We're going to get above freezing every single day through this cooler spell. So valley rain, mountain snow return tonight. Heavy Cascade snow. That's really one of the big highlights here. In the winter travel through the mountains, both the Coast Range and the Cascades will be tough, so plan for that. And valley snow showers, yes, I think everybody will see snowflakes, but I think for most of us who live below 500 feet, you won't have sticking snow. That'll be in the hills above 500 feet. So this is more like one of those situations that we've seen so many times in Portland where, yeah, the hills get snow, sticking snow up, on Vista, Sunset Summit, Burnside Summit, sticking snow up there, but down here in town, it's like, meh. It's a wet road situation. So let's break it down by elevation, Blair. From sea level to 500 feet, rain snow mix. We'll see snowflakes, but not sticking snow. If we do, it'll be brief. Oh, look, it's sticking on the grass. And then 20 minutes later, it's gone. That kind of a thing. I think the roads in the valley will be fine. Do you know your elevation, by the way?
Do I know my elevation, like where I live?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Okay, we're going to work on that. In the hills, above 500 feet, 1 to 3 inches though, so that'll have an impact. That's going to, make things slow for people coming out of the hills or going up and through the hills as we go through the next several days. And then from 2,000 feet, really 1,000 feet and above, we will see heavy snow. But above 2,000 feet, 2 to 3 feet of snow. That's where it's really going to pound on down. So we've got the winter storm warning in the Cascades. The skiing is going to be phenomenal because not only will there be a lot of snow, it's going to be good quality snow because the snow level is so low, the snow will be dry and powdery. It's about as good as it gets here in the Northwest without getting a full-on Arctic blast.
But I mean, getting to the skiing, that's the dangerous part.
That's exactly right because, there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand. It's been so dry. We've been skiing with Bluebird, and it's been great. I've been up there every weekend. But everybody's going to be eager to get up there and enjoy the new snow. So I think there's going to be a big surge of people going up. And then the snow will be on the roads as low as Welch's, zigzag, 1,000 feet. Right? So that's just going to bottle things up a little more quickly. In fact, since we're talking about Mount Hood, here is the forecast. The snow level down to 500 feet by Saturday. Look at that, 12 to 20 inches between tomorrow and tomorrow night. Another half a foot to 12 inches Saturday. Keeps coming Sunday, Monday. It lets up Tuesday. Snow level down to 300 to 500 feet right on through the week. So that's 2 to 4 feet of snow over the next 7 days. And notice the roads. They'll be slushy tomorrow, Blair, because we're transitioning from the warmer to the colder. Then snowy roads right on through the week. I think by Tuesday, there'll be icy patches. ODOT, the plows, they'll do their job. They do phenomenal work. So the roads will get clear, especially towards the end of next week as we start seeing less and less precipitation.
All right, Matt, thanks so much.
You bet, Blair.
Well, we appreciate it. Okay, we're going to keep this weather conversation going tomorrow morning on KGW+. You can join meteorologists Rod Hill and Chris McGinnis at 10 a.m. as they talk more about the incoming rain and the potential for snow this weekend that Matt was just talking about. Again, that's tomorrow morning at 10 on KGW+. It's available for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. All right, turning now to the Washington legislature, where a bill to create bottle and can deposits is up for debate at the state capitol. Washington is the only West Coast state without one. It would establish a 10-cent fee to all drink cans, bottles, glass, plastic, aluminum, but you'd be able to get that money back by recycling the products. Not everyone likes the idea, but backers say the state needs to find ways to increase recycling.
We can't recycle what you don't put into the bin and doesn't get collected. And I'm here because the businesses I represent need us to collect more plastic bottles. Curbside recycling alone will not collect enough bottles to meet the manufacturing demand.
Instead of relying on the convenient curbside system, we have people walk past the bin that's sitting at their house and do chores to get their own money back. This is a regressive tax.
Washington had proposed similar legislation in the past, but didn't get the support to become law. All right, coming up next, that tragic plane crash in Washington, D.C. leads to a flood of online posts containing misinformation. Our National Verify team tackles some of the most widely shared claims. That's when we come back. Amid the recovery efforts in Washington, D.C. following a crash between a passenger jet and a military helicopter, there are many questions about how this deadly incident could have happened. Ariane Daytil with our Verify team looks into U.S. aircraft safety measures.
There are many questions about how the deadly crash between American Airlines Flight 5342 and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter could have occurred. Using these sources, we're answering a few of them. First, is it common for military aircraft and commercial planes to fly near each other around Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport? Yes, there are several military bases around Reagan Airport, and the airport itself is incredibly busy, servicing more than 25 million passengers a year. The FAA has safety policies in place to prevent mid-air collisions. Data from Flight 5342's radio transponder showed the aircraft were at an altitude of around 400 feet when the crash occurred. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the Army is investigating whether the Black Hawk's altitude played a role in the crash. Next, do commercial airplane crash alert systems operate differently below 1,000 feet? Yes. The Traffic Alert and Collision Avoidance System, known as TCAS, is a safety system that helps prevent mid-air collisions between aircraft, giving pilots visual warnings of approaching aircraft and audio messages advising how to react. But according to the FAA, below 1,000 feet, audio alerts are deactivated. Next, did the Black Hawk helicopter have a black box? Claims online that the Black Hawk was not equipped with a black box appear to be false. On Thursday, NTSB board member J. Todd Inman said,
"We will probably have more than one black box, so to speak, It's our understanding that the Sikorsky helicopter is equipped with some form of recording devices.
And finally, people online are claiming this is the deadliest plane crash in the US since 9/11, but that's not quite true. In November of 2001, a couple of months after the terrorist attack, there was a plane crash in Queens, New York that killed 260 people. With your Verify, I'm Ariande Till.
Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. The Good Stuff is coming your way next. And also at 7 on KGW Plus is the Fire Aid Benefit Concert, an evening of music and solidarity dedicated to rebuilding communities devastated by the wildfires. Billie Eilish, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, other big names will be performing. And you can watch for free. Just download the free KGW Plus app on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. We hope you enjoy your Thursday night. Tomorrow is Friday. I'll see you then right here at 6:30.